That's fair. Good morning. Hello. Welcome to SJU. Happy Wednesday. That means Ed Greer is here. Hello.
Hey,
so
I
nice
got thrown off last week.
Yes.
Yeah. Now we're back on regular.
We're back on track.
Back on track.
Just in time for Thanksgiving, which I'm sure will throw everything out
off
of sync
track again. Yeah. No, we'll be here on Wednesday. Spencer Gilbert is here.
Present.
Yeah. Dan Murrell. We're all here. We're talking about all of the things. Like, we got Star Wars to talk about. That's right. It's going to get heated up in here.
I thought you had like some kind of shirt on that was like.
You were going to do a reveal.
Yeah.
Like you had a Millennial
Soy
Falcon.
bomb. That's an old reference.
We have some Star Wars to talk about, Dan Murrell.
Wow.
What else do we have to talk about here? We got Armie Hammer versus Negan. That's the one that we got a bone to pick with you. Oh. I love our airing of grievances segments. That's coming up later. First, let's talk about Simon Pegg. So Simon Pegg thinks Star Wars is missing something, and it's called George Lucas. And I think that this has been a rallying cry from some of the other fans as well. He, of course, appeared in The Force Awakens as Unkar Plutt. And on a podcast, the Adam Buxton podcast, is he British? Feels British. He said, I must admit, watching the last Star Wars film, The Last Jedi, the overriding feeling I got when I came out was I miss George Lucas. For all the complaining that I'd done about him in the prequels, there was something amazing about his imagination. I do feel like his voice is missing from the current ones. He then went on to say, yes, the fandom can get pretty... That is weird.
That's a weird George Lucas pose to take.
Oh, shoot.
That is not an endorsement. That's just an awkwardly timed photograph.
That's...
Sorry, I felt like we should.
I
didn't want to let
looking.
it just drift by.
No, I think you were right to call that out. That's
Stormtroopers, eh?
Oh yeah. Continue.
No, that was weird. Good. We're the worst.
Like, oh, I got to find a good picture of George Lucas directing. It's like, oh, he's on set. It's great. Never did that once cross my mind. You all are terrible.
Blessed
It's
lamb.
our
fault. Yeah. It's our fault.
It's just because we're seeing it on a big screen. That's why.
You're all terrible.
No, we are terrible. We're terrible human beings. Here's what what Simon Pegg had to say previously about the work of George Lucas. He said, it's like George Lucas killed his kid. In speaking about the prequels, Jar Jar Binks made the Ewoks look like effing Shaft.
I would watch an Ewok Shaft in a heartbeat.
I would watch the Shaft out of that.
Yeah.
No. All right. So this is quite a turn of the worm on his part. And I think it speaks to a portion of the fandom that feels that strongly about The Last Jedi that they're now rallying and saying, get George back. I think we can't make anybody happy ever. Ed Greer.
Why did you call on me about not being able to make anybody happy?
Because I'm always trying to make you happy, man.
Look, I mean, the quote from The Dark Knight was that thing, you either die a hero, you live long enough to see yourself become a villain, then you live long after that and see yourself become a hero again. Which is what George Lucas has done. He's lived long enough and been an entity long enough to be like, oh, I messed it up? Well, look at these geniuses. Are they doing what you like either? No. And I do believe that there is a tiny bit of a lack of wonder in these last few movies. George Lucas is not a super great director. He was great for his time, and he did a great culturally shifting thing for his time. But what he does have is a sense of wonder. And when he does... Even when he's involved in the project, there's a wonder that permeates the project. That's why Indiana Jones has a certain sort of feel. Even though Spielberg directed it, it has a sense of wonder, a sense of mythic stuff.
Well, Spielberg definitely has a sense of wonder.
Oh, yeah.
You will wonder. It's almost violent, you know?
I wonder why he directed some of those movies recently. But all I'm saying is I feel, as though some people can pick up on that, and I think Simon Pegg might be, but it just might be a case of the grass is always greener, and now he's found a new lawn to look at.
Okay, those are. I like all of the metaphors. I have a theory. Do you want to hear it? And then Dan, tell me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
And Spencer, tell me that I'm right.
Great.
I think that Star Wars, by the time it returned with both the prequels and now, had lived long enough in our own imaginations to run the risk of never being able to satisfy us because we had told that story through so many times ourselves. Dan, what do you think?
I think you're correct. I think that Star Wars,
you have to think I'm wrong.
In many ways, as we found out, the prequels were one test balloon, and these movies are the second test balloon. And I think what we might be tapping into is the fact that, look, Star Wars is silly. on its face. It's space wizards and laser swords and running around in space.
It's
and
the
guys in
hero's
big
journey.
helmets.
It's the mythic
what I'm saying
story
is-
that underlies all mythology, Dan.
I think that
Space
it was
wizards.
done so well, particularly in the first 2 films, that it might just be possible that was just magic. That was just alchemy. And there are so many things that have to go right for something like that to happen. Maybe it's just that it's just not going to happen again. It's just to expect it to be like it was. George Lucas came back and it's like the creator's back in charge, and those didn't really live up to expectations, so they're like, throw George Lucas out. So George Lucas is out, now he's gone, and then now there's a new team in charge. They're like, well, I don't like these either. Maybe it's just that Star Wars it's hard to do, and you're never
Movies are
going to
hard
do
to
it
do.
As well as it was done in the first couple movies.
Yeah, piggybacking off of that, I think the issue is it's not the addition or subtraction of George Lucas, because I do think he's an ingredient of a successful Star Wars film, but the other elements of the ingredient of the recipe are George Lucas plus collaborators who can tell him no and kind of keep him in check, especially on the writing and editing side, and then time. The prequels were rushed. It was like a second draft. He just dashed it out, and then nobody had the authority to be like, well, maybe we could kind of scale back on the trade negotiations, punch up this a little bit. Like, he was working with Larry Kasdan. He was working with his wife. He was working with all these people on the original trilogy that just weren't there.
Oh my God.
Yes?
Star Wars is heroin.
Star Wars is heroin.
Star Wars is heroin. That first movie was not quite pure. Because he had those collaborators and all those limitations for the first few movies were like stepped on a little bit, so we could take it. We were like, woo,
And we're now
it's a rush.
chasing the dragon.
No, we
but-
can
and-
chase this dragon if we get George Lucas plus time plus collaborators.
I'm
We can
just saying-
feel again.
I'm saying the prequels were like straight uncut, like you're laying on the bathroom floor and it's over.
No,
And
the
that's-
prequels were not too strong. The prequels were too weak. That was like watered down rat poison.
I think they were cut with a lot of baking
Yeah, that was
powder,
mostly
you know?
baking powder.
I would argue that it was pure because he had nobody to tell him no. He loves space delegations, and we got a delegation going to a place in space, and you know he likes diplomatic missions. And boy, did the originals had hints of those. The prequels were all those.
I think Spencer's right. Like we see this all the time, though, with filmmakers or actors that just get too much power, and nobody's willing to tell them no, and everyone's scared to tell them no, even if the person would take the feedback.
Think of the world we could have if somebody said, "Hey, Christian Bale, that bat voice is dumb."
Imagine.
Think of the world we could live in. There's no Trump. It's totally different.
Whoa.
The reverberations
quite a bit.
How do you connect those dots?
they are profound. Yeah,
Because-
it's just
Make America great again.
He stole that line from Batman.
Swear to me, voters. Obviously, I'm
What are we
joking.
talking about again?
Obviously, I'm joking. This is a comedy show. Jesus.
Oh, is it?
It's a nerd news show that is comedic. I think.
Oh, okay. I never know what we are, so thank you, Ed.
I can tell you what we're not after that drug trip is monetized.
Oh. I think that the heroin analogy works. I just think you have it the reverse way. It's cut with way too much baby powder. It's not at all pure. Dan, what kind of heroin?
you're
Dan,
seething.
when you weigh in on the heroin
No,
metaphor, I have to
fine.
know.
I kind of agree with that. I think that the prequels are the pure, uncut Star Wars that we all thought we wanted. And famously, the first couple of movies were enhanced, I believe, by collaboration. And then I think we lost our way. Plus, I
we've
think
lost our way in general.
there's avenues in between. I still am a fan of The Force Awakens. And I'm still impressed by several aspects of The Last Jedi, and other things not so much. So, you know.
Yeah, I
don't
think
know.
that's the other thing. Are we just being too, with the passage of time, will we soften the way that we look at The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi in the same way people have softened their view of the prequels?
I don't know. I will not abide this prequel revisionism. I understand that people grew up with them. I also grew up with them, and then I saw them all in theaters, and they do nothing for me. No,
Me neither, but there are people that do love them.
Yeah.
And there are people that clearly Simon Pegg felt very strongly about them and now feels less so. I feel like the level of critique and criticism around both The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi is unique to those two films. Most films do not get this kind of energy to like just tear them apart piece by piece by piece. But there's another one coming to theaters this week that I think people will do just that about. And then also talk about creators being empowered in a way that maybe they could have used a collaborator.
Sneak preview.
Sneak preview.
Looking at you, widows.
Well, yeah, exactly. I'm obviously talking about widows.
It's gone.
Steve
Steve
McQueen's
McQueen.
widows. He's just too powerful. I'm obviously talking about Fantastic Beasts. Okay, Pedro Pascal. It's like there's no embargo on the review. We can say what we think.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's more fun to be elusive. Pedro Pascal is going to lead the Mandalorian show. Speaking of more and more Star Wars, that's another issue. We just have so much of it. And this is coming to, obviously, Disney streaming service. This was written by Jon Favreau. Pedro Pascal is going to lead the cast. The first episode is going to be, Star Wars fans have to be excited about this, Dave Filoni. He worked on the Clone Wars and Rebels, and people love him. Everybody kind of is like, Dave Filoni, take over everything. Then Thor Ragnarok director Taika Waititi is going to direct an episode. Rick Famuyiwa from Dope. Deborah Chow from Jessica Jones. And if I mispronounced that, forgive me. This is the one that jumped out to me, though, that's going to direct one of the episodes. Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't, has she directed television before and I was unaware? Billy?
It's like Highlander in the Howard family.
Yeah.
It's a bloodline thing.
Yeah.
Is it?
She's gonna start losing her hair and wearing an imagined baseball cap all the time, and she will slowly become her
Morph
father.
into a director.
Yes.
Yeah, I just thought that was really interesting just because as far as I knew, she hadn't, but maybe she has, and I'm just not.
She has. She's directed shorts, but she's never. Oh, she directed one episode of a TV miniseries documentary for Vanity Fair, where they did decades. So she did the '60s, but this will be her first TV show.
All right.
Sweet. Very, very cool. There you go. So anyway, this is the series is set after the fall of the Empire and before the emergence of the First Order. It follows the travails of a lone gunfighter in the outer reaches of the galaxy, far from the authority of the New Republic. That's
Who does not deny himself any of the pleasures of life.
yeah. Why would one?
don't always take selfies.
Can you pull that image up? That's not a man who denies himself any pleasure. Right? Look at that. I eat pleasure for lunch, breakfast, and dinner. And
Yeah.
in that order, because fuck you,
He
pleasure.
has like an invisible caviar spoon.
Why? Out of nowhere.
No one would have
Every
noticed.
time out of nowhere.
If you didn't point it out, no one would have noticed.
Yes.
I didn't notice. What
Yes.
happened?
Nothing.
Oh, I missed it.
Thoughts, Dan, on the program?
I like Pedro Pascal. I think he's a very good actor. He'll be in the armor, I guess. So that's good. I don't know.
That's good.
It's okay. I
What
like
did
the
you
guy.
guys say about Detective Pikachu? Just I wasn't here yesterday.
Strange.
I call it. Yeah, I said that if their goal was to, I said that because I liked it, that meant that a lot of Pokemon fans were probably very upset, and then I called him Pikapool, and then Spencer had some thoughts.
Yeah, I thought it was a strange brew, but
One
intriguing
you'd
in
drink?
some ways and unappealing in others. I am excited by Taika Waititi doing the Star Wars thing. I mean,
Yeah.
this director lineup is legit.
Yeah.
These are like real fun, interesting visual directors who will all get a chance to play in the Star Wars universe. So why not? Let's do it.
Yeah, let's see this program.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to pay for it.
Is this intoning that Jon Favreau is writing the whole series? Because it says Jon Favreau penned the series, which is set
don't
up.
know.
to follow
This
the
is
better
via People. Oh no, I'm sorry.
he's
This is
probably
not
the
via
showrunner,
People.
right?
This is via Variety. And yes, and Billy, can you check that?
Yeah.
Because I think it is.
He's probably the
I'm
showrunner.
reading that he might have written it as well,
Yeah.
though. He's the executive producer.
I think that would be intriguing. I'm not going to try to build it up too much if he didn't write the whole thing, because it's still a great creative vision.
Yeah.
The Daredevil show has many different directors and writers, but it's got a distinct creative vision. So that's fine, no problem. But I'm just saying, if they can use these
He's
different
giving
directors,
you a pass, Disney.
yeah, oh yeah,
fine.
yeah, you got
You blew it, but it's fine.
You giant conglomerate. You get, I let you know, my liege. So I don't know. I feel
It says he's going to write and exec produce the show, so it's
Yeah.
very possible he may
Wow.
have. A
I think
hand
he
in
might have
all of
written it. Yeah.
I'm sure he has some
undertaking.
help, but that's a lot. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not unheard of.
Yeah.
I'm just
True
saying that would be-
Detective successfully
Yeah.
and not so.
And some of the guy who does all the shows for FX and the American Horror.
Oh,
Story.
right.
Yeah,
Murphy.
Noah Hawley.
Yeah.
Oh, no, Holly.
Oh no.
Noah Hawley writes.
Well, Noah
I
Hawley
think,
and Ryan Murphy
yeah.
do both. Yeah, they're very talented.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that could be interesting just to keep the
Although
world.
I think there might be other. I'm sorry. You know what?
I'm sorry for even bringing that up.
We're gonna pin it. We're gonna take this offline. That's like an in the office term. If you've never heard it, it's super annoying.
But no, I think it'd be interesting for them to have one creative vision to keep the world straight, so that we don't have a bunch of different writers
I
trying.
don't know. I kind of want just like the Animatrix, but for Star Wars, of like 9 different weird people do 9 different Star Wars stories. But I know that's not what this is. But I still think that all of these people are interesting. Even Bryce Dallas Howard, because it's just like, what's she gonna do? So that's like, this is not a like CW Star Wars TV show. Like this is gonna be premium.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm first of all, I love the Animatrix. If you guys haven't seen the Animatrix, it's awesome and you should watch it. I would be so there for that for a Star Wars series. I don't think that this is what that is. I think this is probably a very serialized story about this one character who's reportedly in the far reaches of space outside of the grids. But these are pretty great directors. They are going all in. Like, what do these paydays look for these various
Everybody's
series?
going all in.
They are, but I mean, between like getting Loki and Scarlet Witch, and they're getting real Avengers for these shows, and what they're doing around Star Wars, like, I just guesstimate how much are they spending on the streaming service, Disney?
Just on development
Easily
or like
$500
marketing,
million, right? Easily.
Oh, way more, yeah. Just like in the shows they're developing, full pot.
Yeah. Did you say $500 million?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Probably.
I agree.
Wow.
Thoughts?
Wow.
Guesstimate?
I can't even. I think it's around there. It might be more than that.
Probably more.
because of how they shift their accounting. Let's say of how much they spent on this and that. They can absorb it into different ventures.
Different departments.
Yeah.
And then they have
different
to
departments.
build the platform. They
Yeah.
have to market it. I mean,
Make the shows.
Make the shows.
Plus the revenue that you're losing from taking the rights back from Netflix and stuff. When you're reabsorbing the catalog, obviously they were paying you a certain amount of money to host that content, which is now being hosted essentially for them for free because it's they're not getting those licensing and royalty stuff.
I mean, when you can get this type of stuff at home, though, what I'm wanting is the death and resurrection of the movie industry. Like all the old houses that all the scenists and push their glasses up and go, I like to go to this old uncomfortable chair garbage place that's hot and watch movies. I'm not looking at you, Dan. I'm just saying, I think those will go away. and the theaters that will be left will be like jiggle you around like a freaking roller coaster. It's playing on a hologram on a chip in your eye.
Avatar 4.
Super crazy theaters will be the only theaters left. And frankly, the only movies will be Pikachu Detective and robots and breaking stuff.
Sounds like a nightmare.
It really does.
It sounds like that came from Dan's mind. I think it's a nightmare that
That's
he
my
had
worst
just
nightmare.
last night.
Black Mirror, the theater.
Counter argument for you is that this year actually was a banner year for theaters. Crossed $1 billion in record time, edging towards probably maybe we'll hit 12 domestically. So I don't know. I think that's probably a question that's being asked because studios are going so hardcore all in on streaming, and rightfully so. I understand why. But now that box office is so up, what is the balance?
I'd
Billy?
love to be the guy.
Just out of, if you were curious at all, the budget for the Star Wars series, The Mandalorian, is $100 million for 10 episodes.
Cool.
That being said, Disney gets $13 billion from just its 6 parks alone a year. So
Yeah.
I think they can cover the cost.
They're fine. I mean, yeah, we're not. Plus, there's the merchandising, and then a lot of this acts as advertisement for those things. But still, it's pretty fascinating to
But
watch.
Dole Whips aren't cheap.
No.
You know?
No.
No.
Those tiki birds don't animatronic
No, they
themselves.
really don't. You got to get a lot of Imagineering on
Clean
that.
all the dead bodies out
All
of
of
Pirates
it.
of the Caribbean.
Why are we just sitting
Why are
on
we sitting on me
Billy?
watching?
What are you doing, JT?
Just wants to enjoy.
No. No.
Oh,
What?
Watch the show. You're there. Watch the show.
No,
Good
but
Lord.
Just
Go. Don't.
how are you missing it, JT?
He's literally breaking the
Billy, we don't
set.
own that light.
Yeah, that light's gonna get
we
reposed.
really-
Repo this.
Yeah. Although, counter argument. We should do a final SJU where we break the set.
No,
Let's break
no,
every
not
part of
Vanilla
it. Come
Ice.
It'd
on.
actually be the other way around. It'd be like the one day where we just don't put the tape on everything.
exactly.
Just come in and just let everything be natural.
Yeah.
Then it would break.
Everything's being held together with force of
Duct
will
tape
and
and
love.
Yeah.
I was there when it all ended.
Armie Hammer. Oh. This is via people and Twitter everywhere. I saw this happen because a friend of mine retweeted it and like enthusiastically supporting his tweet, which I was surprised by. So this is what happened. Jeffrey D. Morgan was pissed. Negan was pissed at Armie Hammer because he basically took to Twitter critiquing how people were choosing to honor Stan Lee after Stan Lee passed away this week, which we were very, very sad about. I know you guys talked about that yesterday. So this is what he tweeted on Monday. He's deleted the post, by the way. So touched by all of the celebrities posting pictures of themselves with Stan Lee. No better way to commemorate an absolute legend than putting up a picture of yourself. If Stan impacted your life, all of our lives, with his work, post his work that touched you the most. Posting a selfie makes his death about you and how cool you felt taking a picture with him. Now, some people responded, including Walking Dead actor, as mentioned, Jeffrey D. Morgan, who said, looks like you found a way to use others' ways of mourning and their memories to draw some attention to yourself. You sound like a real asshat. I can say that because it's in your tag.
Can I say that the way that I heard
Yes,
Jeffrey
please.
Dean Morgan
Please,
tweeting
I
that?
wish you would.
You got to lean back.
Okay.
Looks like you found a way to use others' ways of mourning their memories to draw some attention to yourself. You sound like a real asshat. That's how I heard that tweet.
You best be running, Armie, because it's about to be poo time.
Yeah, hope you got your shitting pants
yeah.
on and also your shitting hat.
Yeah.
Well.
Shitting tweets. Yeah, so people responded, and a lot of people did this. So Hugh Jackman, Robert Downey Jr., Larry King, Mark Hamill, Jessica Alba, Tom Holland, Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dwayne Johnson, Kevin Smith, Kat Dennings, Halle Berry, and Jamie Alexander all participated and posted pictures of themselves with Stan Lee. And so some Twitters were arguing with him saying, hey, they worked with him. And he said, yeah, me too. And a person said, well, what else are you supposed to do, Armie? And he says, if your answer is post a selfie, then I think that we need a cultural revamp across the board. I'm like, we got a list, Armie, and that's pretty low down of the cultural revamps we need. But essentially then he said that he liked the fact that Mark Ruffalo posted a picture of Stan Lee with the Hulk versus with Mark. Long story endless. I think we all have some feelings. I know, Billy, you have some thoughts on this.
Yeah, unless...
Do you want to break some more things?
Look, unless... I know, I'm kind of mad I broke this already, because Armie Hammer, unless I have questions about baking soda, your opinion means absolutely nothing to me. The fact that people are posting pictures with Stan is the legacy that Stan Lee left behind. He cared about his fans, and he took time to take pictures with all of them. Don't be butthurt because no one wanted you to work with Stan Lee ever. Go open Lone Ranger 2, you loser. That's what I have to say.
Wow.
Dan?
This is just a strange take. I mean, I guess he didn't like that famous people were posting pictures of themselves with Stan Lee, but like that to me is, I certainly, just like personally, like if I've had deaths in my family, the first thing that I think to do is, if I'm remembering them, is to share a fond memory of the two of us together, just to be like, this person was very important in my life. We had some good times together. Here's this is the two of us doing whatever. And so, like, it's just a weird take because it's not like celebrities are just tweeting out like a picture of themselves with Stan Lee and just being like, look at me in this picture with Stan. And like they were, from what I read, the ones that I saw were very heartfelt tributes to him, and it was just. It's like Billy said, he touched so many different aspects of the entertainment industry and touched so many different people's lives and had such a profound effect on so many different people that it just seems like, particularly like, people like Kevin Smith, like Stan Lee, and Kevin Smith's career was a huge boost for him to be in Mallrats. Like that was a big validation for him, and I'm sure a big deal for him. That was his second movie, and it's just a weird take. Like.
A lot of fans were posting pictures and sort of people that do what we do. And I think that's just about like, look look at how amazing he was. Look at how many lives he touched. Look at how cool he was to he was a person that radically changed how creators and fans interact at Marvel. And then like that's just so far ahead of his time because that was decades before the kind of fan and creator interaction that we see is so common today. But he saw that decades and decades and decades ago. Like this is part of his legacy is that he was cool with people.
It's weird to me
And-
that somebody would dictate how other people can
Mourn.
Yeah.
or pay tribute to
I
someone.
think that's my big takeaway is like, look, even if this annoys you, doesn't annoy me, but who makes you the arbiter of like, well, young folk, let me tell you how to grieve appropriately. I was, as Billy said, the Lone Ranger. It's just so many things annoy me that I don't feel the need to correct everyone about. I know, shocking, because sometimes I do, but it's like, you just keep it to yourself. Or go offline. It's so easy. If the tributes to Stan Lee are really that upsetting to you, maybe just head off Twitter for a little bit.
Yeah, I thought it was really odd too, and it's like so finger waggy, even if it is. But you know what? At the same time, and Ed, you're gonna have to weigh in here too. At the same time, I feel like as much as that I think was a silly critique to make, we all say dumb things on Twitter, and I don't think he expected to blow up that way.
Sure. And there is like a narcissistic bent to social media where like people are taking up like 3/4 of the frame in a bikini in front of like the Washington Monument. Like Washington Monument, but like this isn't that.
That got 2 million more retweets
Yeah.
than the actual Washington Monument, though.
Yeah,
What do you
I
think?
mean, I think the ground's been covered pretty well, but I do, if anybody on this panel could identify with just a mean take and policing other people's behavior on some level, it would be me. But this is way too far, and it is, like Spencer said, something that you just do it in your house. Your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your significant other or whatever, your dog or your cat, can hear this particular rant. You know what I mean? But I think that is the insidiousness of Twitter and how it's invaded like kids' brains. And this guy, to me, is a kid. He's like, what, he's in his early 30s.
He's a gentleman of Harvard.
Yeah.
And there's two of
Armie
them.
Hammer?
Yeah, and there's two of them. And they will, yeah.
I don't know.
He's older than in
The
his
thing
early
that's
30s.
infuriating, though, is like if he had just said his piece and left, I'd be like, whatever, you're an idiot. But then the fact that people are like, what about this? He's like, no, that's terrible. What about this? Yes, that one is the one to do. Like, I'm sorry, I'm using it. Armie Hammer, fuck
Oh,
you.
wow.
Whoa, he used
You
his- he
are
cashed
the
it in.
Billy's not on
worst.
Billy's
camera
not
for
on
that.
You
camera
are
for
the
that.
worst. Doesn't
He's-
matter. I'm like,
Are we
God,
not
I
cut
will
to Billy?
echo
Are we not cutting
throughout.
Billy at all?
Like,
No, I'm
Are
now
you
I'm now on
sure? What's
probation.
What's going on there?
happening?
Is that like a 30-second audio
Yeah.
delay or something? What's happening today? What's going on?
Hey,
you.
But
JT's
to
fantasy
say
team's not gonna
which,
win itself.
to third party like say like, well, that one means something and that one doesn't and that one does and that one doesn't, like that's where I feel like that's where he crossed the line. Like, you can have your opinion, fine. The selfies thing bothers you, fine. But then when you start nitpicking people's how they want to remember Stan, because like my picture that I posted, those are incredibly special moments, and the ones that were even more special that I got to share with him, there are no pictures. Those are forever just inside my brain and my heart. So screw you, Armie Hammer.
Yeah, this is a what does Ja Rule think situation. If you remember the Dave Chappelle's bit about how after 9/11 MTV News didn't know what to do, so they
Yeah.
cut to Ja Rule. It's like, thanks, Armie Hammer. What does Armie Hammer think about mourning?
yeah.
What would I be without the Trade Center?
All right, cut.
Also, incorrect definition of selfie. Most of them were not selfies. They were taken by other people.
Right, yeah.
Who has
Like,
selfie is
a
the
selfie is
arm
this,
arm
Armie
with the-
Hammer.
Yeah. Old man yells
For a
at
guy
cloud.
with arm
You
in his name, you
invented
think you know what a
Facebook,
selfie is.
supposedly. You tried to get a piece of it anyway, fictionally speaking. Yeah, I think, look.
It's just something you keep to yourself.
Something you keep to yourself, and also I legitimately think it's actually not in line with what Stanley was about at all. This is a man who shared his creations, that was very, very open, like I said, was revolutionized how fans and creators interacted way back in the day.
Well, to look at it as a positive, though, he affected so many people's lives that we talk about how much Star Wars fans and people who like the stuff that we like have ownership,
Yeah.
or they try to take ownership over the creative process to the point where they're dissatisfied with everything. Stan Lee was so ubiquitous and has such a cultural influence that people like Armie Hammer think they own him.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
That's kind of awesome. I just want to look at some part of this as positive, and I think that is positive.
I think that is positive, and I think again, but here's the other. I was gonna get us to try it. I was trying to get us to a positive too, but I like that you got us there first. It's because we're like this, you and me, just right with Spencer in between us, like a big ball of cynicism. A lovely, lovely, sweet ball of cynicism.
I'm trying to think what project Armie Hammer worked on with Stan Lee.
Yeah, what was he talking about?
It
When
might
he
have
said that
been
he
a-
worked with him too.
Yeah, it might have been a voiceover thing.
Maybe it was a
Give me second, I'll
voiceover
look it
thing,
up.
yeah.
He came in for a meeting on the Century.
I think the biggest thing though is that like the biggest takeaway about for one of them and I know you guys talked about this all, but like in terms of creating characters that were really, really flawed and heroic at once, and the idea of Excelsior and like always rising and be flawed and be imperfect and be human, but rise to your better self despite it. And that's what makes the difference between a villain and a hero, and that line can blur depending on your choices and your ability to make good choices in any given moment. Like, well, let's listen to that and just allow for a little bit of humanity, because I think it was a silly tweet, but who cares? It's just a tweet.
It was a voiceover project. Stan Lee's Mighty Seven.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't know what that is, but Sean Astin, Jim Belushi.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
There you go.
There you go.
Well, I already made my big speech,
Yep.
so I don't know what else to do. But Excelsior, rise to your better self. Let's be human. Let's be imperfect. Let's do the best we can in that. But also, F you, Armie Hammer. Okay, we have...
Great. Good show.
Good show. Thank you, guys. Well done. We have... oh, shoot. We're out of time again. The Deadpool story. Damn it. We will get to it tomorrow. Right, Billy?
Yeah, it's so done by now, but I guess we should just cover it at some point.
Actually, I read an update today that would have been pretty interesting.
All right, we'll save it for tomorrow.
We'll do
we
it
need
tomorrow.
a headline for tomorrow.
And then today, or tomorrow, you have what do we have?
Right now, there's an honest trailer commentary for the Meg, which you can watch here on Screen Junkies News.
Yeah, there you go.
There's an honest trailer for the Meg, which you can watch on the Screen Junkies channel.
Yep.
Yesterday, we did a Tuesday edition of Charting with Dan, which is available right now. And later today, Roth, we're going to have a review for Wreck-It Ralph 2.
Thank you, Dan Murrell.
Okay.
Or Ralph Breaks the Internet, I guess. They've dropped the Wreck-It Ralph 2 for Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Okay.
Spencer Gilbert, what nation am I currently in?
Oh, I don't know where your soul left. Your body's here in America, but I think you're somewhere over the Atlantic.
Okay, great. Ed,
If I said anything to offend anybody today, I just extend my sincerest apology.
is that coming from anything specifically, or is
A
that
lot of
just a blanket
stuff. Spence
statement?
caught some stuff. There's been some F-bombs. We're all over the place today. I feel like I'm responsible on some level, but maybe that's narcissistic. I love the show, dude. I love what we do over here. We covered a lot of topics today. I'm sorry we didn't get to Pikachu and his detective hat.
Yeah.
I'm sorry we didn't. But I love the show, and I'm just very happy to be here. I just wanted to say that.
Oh,
thank you, Ed.
well, we are honored to have you with us, with your talents and your insight and your wisdom and your humor. And I will say that anything that goes wrong with the show is 100%. I take full responsibility at leaving it in Billy's hands. Yeah, it's just. It's
Even
on
better.
him.
Usually is.
Yeah.
Usually is.
Can we see that broken light, Billy? Can we see the broken light?
This is my legacy.
I hated that light from the second they put it in, so that's good. Get that light out of
I'm
here.
kidding. Billy's
It's
amazing.
surprisingly
Useless.
frail. I was not
It shouldn't be
expecting
there. It's in
that
the
reaction.
way. It draws focus. You can't shoot Hal in front of it because there's a light looming over his shoulder. I don't know why it's there. Get rid of it.
That's been our tribute to the hanging light. And we will see. Anything that goes wrong is truly my fault on this show. But anyway, bye.